Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today's video is going to be how to track your periods, how to track ovulation, PMS, the actual period, and more, because honestly I feel like this is one of the biggest parts of having a period, because something that everyone talks about when you start having periods is like, how do I know when it's coming? How do I like track it? How do I know how long my cycle is? Just all that stuff, and some people don't know how to track their periods exactly, and so I really wanted to give you guys a really good method of tracking your periods in this video because it is so important. And I know that in the world a lot of people shun periods or make anyone who has a period feel bad about having periods, but honestly periods are really something that's a part of health. It's a sign of health, and so by really keeping track of your health and making sure that you know what to expect with your health and like when your period's coming and everything, it's so important. And so yeah, before we get into this video, please like this video and comment down below why you're here, because I would really love to know if you were like looking up how to track your periods and then you landed on this video, or if you just like period videos in general, you want to know more about your periods, how to track your periods. And so yeah, I do not want to talk anymore, or like, what am I even saying? I do want to talk, but I don't want to talk about what I'm talking about right now. I want to talk about how to track your periods, so let's get into the video. So by the way, I'm like filming this video around like 2 p.m. and the sun's like being really weird today. I have no idea what's going on, so if like there's just some weird lighting changes, I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, before I tell you guys how to track your periods, I really wanted to tell you guys why it is so important to track your periods, because I don't know like if you would know the reason. I mean, everyone's like, track your periods, know when your period's coming, but no one ever really says like why you should know when your period is coming. So I really wanted to tell you guys the why before the how. And to be 1000% honest, when you first get your period, for the majority of people who get periods, it is very irregular in the beginning, and so it is so important to document exactly how your body is feeling throughout the month, throughout your cycle. It's just so important to like really be educating yourself on what's going on with your body, because in the beginning of tracking your period, you're not gonna know. Like the beginning is kind of like laying the groundwork, because when you start writing down like your symptoms, and we will get into this later on in the video, like how exactly to track your periods, but like it's basically just writing down your symptoms every single day. And so when you go back and like when you've had a few periods, you can start to notice patterns and changes in the way that your body is feeling before, during, and after your period, because everyone has 1000% different cycles. There is no one on this earth who has an identical cycle to someone else. I mean, there is that thing like menstrual synchrony, but even then everyone's body is different, and so it is so important to make sure that you know what your cycle is for you. And I cannot stress what I'm about to say enough. Once you become regular, it is even more important to track your periods so that you know when you start bleeding. My mom has told me this, and she's had periods for like obviously so long, and she said it is so important to track your periods so you know when your period's coming, so that you aren't surprised. Because the worst would be getting your period, you had no idea, you didn't pack any supplies in your bag, it came at school or like at your sport, and you had literally no idea, and now you're facing a period horror story. But if you track your periods, when your periods start to become regular, which they eventually will, then you'll know when you start to bleed. And I don't want to like scare you off, but I will tell you that when you start tracking your periods, it can actually bring a bit more stress, because I don't know if it's just me, but whenever my period is like due, like I start getting the symptoms like sore chest or like a headache or some pimples, and I know my period's coming, I start to get so like dreadful, like, oh, I can't believe it's coming. I just feel like everyone gets so stressed when their period is due. When you start tracking your cycle, there's like those couple days when like your period's gonna come if you are regular, so it's like, oh my god, I better like wear the right stuff, I better like pack some pads and tampons in my bag so that like I have stuff when I get my period this week. And also like if you're new to having periods, it's just like so much like work around it, you know what I mean? Like you really have to decide what's right for you, and it can be so stressful, especially for someone who's so new to having periods, who like doesn't even know what kind of period brand to buy. I mean, you could be totally faced with like, it's your first ever periods, you keep experimenting with like so many different period care brands, they're just not working out for you. You're gonna just get like so stressed when your period is coming up if you have not yet established a good routine, like when you have your period, when you get your period. For example, something that I really struggle with is running out of pads and tampons in the house. I live with 2 other women. I live with my mom and my aunt, and we just go through period hygiene products so quickly. It's like when I end up getting my period, or like when one of us gets our period, we like turn to each other and we're like, oh my god, we're out of pads, because the other person used them for like her last period. And it's really hard to like run to the store or like the drugstore or something like that, and it's just like honestly so annoying, because I'm busy with school and like after school activities, and I just hate going out on my period. Like I'm just so crampy and like PMS-y, and like, you know that feeling when you're on your period and you just kind of want to hide under your blanket covers like from the rest of the world forever. So I hate having to like go to the store with my mom because my period's coming up, or like I'm on my period and we're about to be out of them. It just brings up so much stress, and that is why I am so in love with the brand Freya, which is a subscription service that delivers naturally made pads and tampons right to you whenever you are on your period. You guys always ask me in the comment sections and like on my Instagram DMs and everything what period care or like period brand I recommend for pads and tampons, and so you need to hear me out if you want to hear my top recommendation, which is a brand that eliminates all period care struggles. I feel feel like periods are just so hard to deal with. Like, obviously they are, but they've been accepted as being annoying to deal with. But the brand Freya really shows you just how easy being on your period can be. So Freya was designed around the idea that anyone who has a period shouldn't have to choose between their health and the performance of their period care products. Before Freya, you could get only like two kinds basically. Okay, so you could get drugstore brands of pads and tampons, or you could get 100% organic pads and tampons. Now, drugstore brands, they contain all kinds of chemicals. Two notable ones are chlorine and dioxin, and chlorine is obviously like really just not good for you to constantly have like pressed up around yourself down there. But dioxin is a chemical that I bet you've never heard of, and like you probably never want to hear about it because it is a chemical that can be really harmful to your health if you are routinely exposed to it. And here's the problem with 100% organic cotton pads. Yes, all the chemicals are gone and it's completely natural, but those typically only last like 2 hours, let's be honest. And it's not nearly as absorbent as what a pad can be like. And so this is where Freya comes in, because this brand offers anyone who has a period the best period leakage protection on the planet while removing all of those toxic chemicals. And get this, Freya pads and tampons have 8-hour coverage. So I'm going to start by opening their super pads. I have never seen a pad this long and this thin. If you've ever had that problem where like you feel like your pad is too much forward or too much back and you like can't get it in the middle and you're worried about leaking, guys, look how long that pad is. You are not going to have any problems with leaking. I have a bowl of water here. I'm going to take this spoon and put the water on this pad just to see how absorbent it is, and then I'm going to take a drugstore brand pad and see if it has the same effect. I'm actually using the toilet as like a little seat for myself anyway. I'm going to dribble some water on this pad and we're going to see how absorbent it would be like for blood. I am pouring spoons of water on this pad. Do you see any water dribbling down? When you touch this pad, it is completely dry. I'm squeezing this pad. Do you see any water dribbling out of it? So now I'm gonna take a drugstore pad and see if it has the same effect, and I really don't think it will. It is very wet. My hands are wet. When I squeeze, okay, I think we have a clear winner here. So that is like about their actual like products, but now I want to tell you guys like about their service, because these days everyone is just so busy, especially teenagers, school, after school activities, homework, so many like sports and just activities and just so much more that you have to keep track of. I know that there's a lot of people out there who don't have very close relationships with their parents and they can't like actually just directly ask them, Mom, can you go buy me pads at the store? Or your parents are just like busy too and they like just don't have time. And so if you use Freya, you don't have to ever go to the drugstore to buy pads or tampons again. You can just get those pads and tampons delivered right to your doorstep. You can personalize your bundle, customize your subscription delivery schedule, and you can also modify, pause, or cancel your subscription at any time. Freya's almost like a period tracker in itself, because even if like you aren't aware when your period's coming up, Freya will just deliver those pads and tampons to your doorstep and you'll know, oh, well, I guess my period's coming because Freya delivered me some amazing pads and tampons. And if you're like new to having periods or like you've never had your first period before, I really want you guys to subscribe to Freya, because honestly, it's really important to start out with a period care brand that is like right for you, because experimenting with tons of different brands, it's just not ideal. So I would really recommend starting off with Freya, or if you've like had your period for a while, you don't really know like what period care brand to use, switch to Freya. To get 20% off of your first month with Freya, regardless of how big a bundle you choose or like which products you choose, then make sure to use my code RUBY before checkout to get that 20% discount. Just apply it right before checkout, and I will also have a link to Freya's website, and you can go click on that link that I will have linked down below to automatically apply the code to your order. Again, thank you so much to Freya for sponsoring this video. And so yeah, now I'm going to be getting into the part of this video where I tell you guys how to track your periods. So the very first step in the whole period tracking process is obviously deciding how you are going to track your period. Lots of people recommend apps, but I personally recommend a reliable physical calendar. You can put it like anywhere. You can put it on your desk or like hang it on your wall or something like that. So if you didn't know, there are essentially 4 parts to tracking your period, and those 4 parts are 1, ovulation, 2, PMS, 3, the actual period, and 4, the end of your period. And you don't just have to check this, you can also write down the actual days of your cycle, and I will actually show you guys this. There are a couple other details on here that you might not be familiar with yet, but we will go over in this video. But as you can see, I number all the days days of my cycle. So basically, if you didn't know, day 1 is when you get your period, and then like day 1 is the day of your next cycle. So basically your cycle starts when you get your period. So one of the main parts to tracking your period is ovulation. And if you didn't know what ovulation is, essentially ovulation is when the egg releases to make it possible for you to actually like have a period. And the problem with tracking ovulation is that it will be a little hard to track in the beginning because you won't know exactly when you ovulate. But I can tell you a fact about ovulation, which is that you typically ovulate around 14 days before you get your period. So I'm actually going to use the month December as an example. So let's say you got your period on December 14th. That would mean you ovulated 14 days ago, so around December 1st. No one ever like really talks about ovulation symptoms, but sometimes I like feel pain on my side, which is actually scientifically called Mittelschmerz, and sometimes it'll like go down my leg and it'll feel like really bad sometimes, or like I'll get a bit of like light brown spotting like when I'm not due for my period, or I'll get like increased discharge or something like that. So if you are experiencing any symptoms that like feel like what I just described and they're not your period, I would recommend writing down a little O on your calendar and writing a little question mark next to that O. And if you do end up getting your period 2 weeks from when you write down that little O, then you know that that is when you ovulated and you can erase that question mark. Actually, when you get your period, weirdly, is when you track ovulation. So when you get your period, go back exactly 2 weeks and that is when you ovulated. So the next part to tracking your periods and like just your cycle in general is to track PMS. If you did not know what PMS is, it is basically premenstrual syndrome where you can get a bunch of physical and emotional symptoms a couple weeks before you get your period, usually starting sometime after ovulation. I actually did a whole video like all about PMS, literally telling you guys every single detail about PMS. I will link that video right here if you are interested in going and checking that one out. So this is the month of March 2021 for me, and as you can see, I wrote down a lot of my symptoms. I was writing down when I had cramps, and now I actually just write down when I'm having cramps, when my chest is a bit sore, when I'm having headaches. Sometimes if I'm not sure what my symptoms are, but like I feel like I'm PMSing, I will write down a little dot and then write PMS after that dot. And everyone PMSs for a different amount of time. Some people PMS for 2 weeks, some people PMS for like 2 days before they get their period. So by really tracking the symptoms that you get before your period, like writing it down on the day that it happens on your physical calendar, that will really help you, because in the future when you start like feeling that, you'll know your period is on its way. Everyone's different. Some people might get pimples before they get their period, some people might just get cramps or like a little twinge in their back, some people get cravings, some people feel really emotional, some people have all of these symptoms, some people have none of these symptoms, some people have like only one or a mix. It's gonna be different for everyone, so just write down what suits you and like your body and what you're going through. And so now one of the main and like center parts of tracking your period is tracking the actual period, because let's be real, that's probably the part that you're most going to remember to like write down on your calendar when you get your period. It's very simple. The day you get your period, or like the day you start bleeding, just write down a little P, just a little dot with a P. And if you're unsure if you got your period that day, like it's just a little spotting, write a little question mark next to the P, and then you can always erase it if like it does turn into an actual period. And you don't even just have to write down when you get your period. Here's an example. The month of March 2021 for me, I wrote down the consistency of the blood, the color of the blood, also my period symptoms that I was experiencing, just to kind of really get to know my body better, get to know what my cycles are like for myself personally, because as I said, everyone is so different. And so then this is a step that is kind of like optional, but I always do it. That is to track the end of your period as well as the actual period, because the end of your period might not be something that you think is important, but it really actually is, because as you go back throughout the months, you can see how long your periods last. I always personally write EP whenever my period ends, or like the day that there's really no more blood left. I always just write EP for end period, or like end of period, and that way I can really monitor, like as I go back throughout the months, okay, so this period lasted 6 days, this one lasted 5 days, this one lasted 7 days, and I can really kind of start to see like the averages. And it's also really important like if you're thinking of signing up for Freya, because Freya gives you the option to select how many pads or tampons you want delivered to you. And so if you're bleeding like more like 7 days rather than like 3 days, you might want to pick a larger bundle and not like a smaller bundle. I mean, I feel like a lot of people when they're ending their period get like just a little bit of brown discharge, and that you can count as the end of your period. If it's just like not really blood anymore, that's when you start counting it as the end of your period. By the way, I will link this calendar down below if you guys like want to go buy it. If you like the way this calendar looks and you want to like get a physical calendar that like I use or something like that, I will link that down below. But yeah, just tracking your periods, it really helps you with knowing what to expect next time you get your period, and next time you get your period, and next time you get your period. And eventually you will feel so prepared whenever you get your period. And also you can really get to know your body and your personal cycle a lot better than you did before knowing how to track your period. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching it. I really hope that this video was able to help you out with learning how to track your period, because honestly, when I was starting to have a period, I didn't really know what my system was going to be like. And so if you clicked on this video, I bet you didn't really know like what your tracking system should be personally for you. And so I really hope that this video helped you to really give you a system to use so that you can get to know your body better as you learn how to track your periods. I also wanted to say a big thank you to Freya for sponsoring this video, and honestly just for giving me the opportunity to share their amazing brand with you guys, because honestly learning how to to track your periods is so important if you're signing up for Freya, because then you know how often you want their pads and tampons delivered to your door. And remember, if you want to get 20% off of your first month with Freya, then make sure to use my discount code Ruby to get that 20% discount. You can just apply it right before you check out, or you can click the link that I will have down below in the description box to just automatically apply my code to your order to get a 20% discount off of your first month with Freya. Before you leave, please like this video, and if you made it to the end of this video, comment down below goodbye period struggles, because honestly the whole purpose of this video is to really try to help you guys eliminate as many period care struggles as possible. First with like just tracking your period to honestly make having periods an easier and less confusing experience for you, and also to show you guys how amazing of a brand Freya is, because it really does help you to say goodbye to all of your period care struggles. And also please subscribe to my YouTube channel to see a ton more period content, because honestly I've done like so many period related videos. I actually have a whole period playlist that you guys can go check out if you are interested in that. And yeah, I have so many other period videos planned to come out in the future. Period videos that could help anyone who has not yet gotten their first period, has just recently gotten their first period, or just anyone out there who has a period. So subscribe if you are interested in those. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and I love you guys. Bye.